Yesterday, I hit 2,000 miles in my 24 Ranger Raptor. I've had this thing for a month and a half, and it is hands down the best vehicle I've owned. I've owned two Tacomas, and then I've also had the Jeep Gladiator Eco Diesel, the Rubicon, so compare it to that as well. I've had 5 different M3s from the late 90s. I had one '03 and then a 2016. That's what I traded in on this vehicle. I had the Explorer ST, which has the exact same motor and transmission as this truck does. And then I had the Focus ST and the Focus RS. So I've gotten to go to the track day that Ford Performance provides when you buy one of their Ford Performance vehicles. So I'm going to compare the Ranger Raptor Assault School to that as well. Obviously very different. One's on a track, the other one's off-road, but you do get to do some Baja style driving on a dirt track in this. So that's what I'm going to be comparing it to, without, like, hands down the best of the vehicles I've owned all around. Obviously the M3 is more fun on a track. The Jeep, if you're going to go rock crawling, is a little bit better. I mean, I guess it's only better on paper. I went out and played with this thing on a Jeep trail and it did amazing, and super easy to put it into 4-low and to get the differentials locked. In my Tacomas, you had to be on flat ground, move the wheel back and forth, get all the gears lined up before everything would lock up. In this thing, you can be climbing up a hill, start slipping, just put your foot on the brake, put it in neutral, and then push the button. So you switch it to rock crawling mode, that'll put it in 4-low, or you can just push 4-low. And then up on the screen, you can lock out the front differential. The rear differential is locked out when you go into 4-low. So I did that, and I was amazed how easy it was. So I really love that. I wouldn't trade this for any car that's on the market right now, within reason. Obviously, if someone came up here with a McLaren or, you know, like the Raptor R or something, yes, I would trade it straight up, but that's a $100,000 difference. Maybe not 100,000. I heard the Raptor R is like 110, but they're marked up a ton. So we'll say 60,000. Then a McLaren, I don't even know how much a McLaren is. I just said that because I know they're super fancy. If in a generation or two they come out with a Ranger Raptor R, will they put the 3.5 liter motor in this? I will very much consider that, but right now that doesn't exist. And then the other vehicle that they haven't said they're going to make, they probably will never make, but if they made a Maverick ST version with this motor in it and made it like a street truck, like the old 90s and early 2000s trucks out in California, that's where I grew up. That's what I love. This one's very cool. I had the S10 Extreme when it came out, and that thing was really slow. It looked cool to me. Not a fast car by any means. It just had the 4.3 liter motor with like 190 horsepower or something. Pretty poor performance wise. So off on a tangent, back to the truck. This thing is great. I did have a couple little issues with it when I got it. So the first thing was that the dome lights and the map lights didn't work. Took it to the dealer. It was just a disconnected connector up in the headliner. So that was taken care of super easy. Another thing is, and this isn't something that had to get fixed, the stock subwoofer is woefully small. It's like a 5 1/4, 5.5 inch subwoofer in a ported enclosure. So I pulled that out and put in an 8-inch hideaway sub by Kicker, and it's worlds different. You just got to run power up through the firewall. So that was a little bit of a pain, but now that I know how to do it, it's a pretty quick thing to do. So the upholstery on the driver's seat, I made a video about this earlier. It's already getting wavy and stuff and stretching out. I mean, some people say, yeah, it's a seat, it's going to do that. But I look at my wife's 12-year-old Toyota Sienna that we bought for like $20,000 back in 2012, and those leather seats are not wavy or loose at all. And I've been sitting in that. We've been driving it for 120, 130,000 miles. So to say it's going to happen, it doesn't happen in every vehicle, and I would like it not to happen in my $60,000 truck. But it's not the end of the world. It's not terrible. It's just, you know, noticeable. And I'm thinking over time, if it gets wavy enough and then starts creasing, then the leather's going to crack. I took it to Ford. They took some pictures, sent it off. I haven't heard back, but it's not something I'm like hell-bent on getting fixed. I was just thinking, hey, it'd be nice if this is just a one-off in my truck, if you're going to fix it. If it's all the trucks, is there going to be a recall, or you just say deal with it, which, to be honest, it is what it is. Just like the drive shafts. So the drive shafts in this American version are all just steel. They're not painted, they're not coated, so they all have flash rust, surface rust all over them. When I first saw that, I was thinking, oh my gosh, this thing's already rusty. I need to get it taken care of. But then the more mechanics and the more people in the comments on YouTube said, dude, it's the U-joints are cast iron. The drive shafts are solid metal, like solid steel, so they're going to rust a little bit. Well, not solid steel, they're hollow, but it's like a steel tube. So there's going to be rust on it. It's not going to go into the metal, it's just surface rust. So I kind of got over that. I still plan on sanding it down and painting it with some sort of like rust protectant or Rust-Oleum, or there's like a thing called a rust encapsulator. So all of that, something I might still do. I will get it done before the winter. I'm not worried about doing it right now. The technology in this truck is amazing, but anytime you have technology, there's always going to be little issues. The Sync 4 in the tablet, in the infotainment system, I would say once every 10th time when I get in the truck, my phone and the tablet will say it's playing, the volume is up, I've tried turning it off and turning it on, and it just won't play. The only way that I have found to fix it without turning the car all the way off and restarting it is to go in, disconnect my phone, and reconnect it. At this point, I've had this truck for a month and a half. It's just second nature now. If it's not playing, I do that. It takes about 5 seconds and it's playing. So that's the workaround, but a software fix could probably get that taken care of. I don't know what the issue is, just something in the handshake doesn't work where it's displaying everything. You can go into Google Maps and tell it to, take you to work or whatever, and it'll show up there, but no audio comes through. And I've tried going back to like FM and then back to the phone to reset. So FM will come through and then you go back to the phone, it doesn't work. So I have to disconnect and reconnect. Not the end of the world. Like I said, already I'm used to it. It takes 5 seconds and I just do it before I start driving. Similar to that, there's a button on your steering wheel that lets you go into your My Mode settings. It's the little R button, the Raptor button. You press it twice. The first time it shows you what the status is. The second one puts you into that drive mode. So for mine, for example, it's set up auto start stop disabled, sport mode for everything, and 4 auto for the 4-wheel drive instead of 2 high. That wasn't working for a while. I was thinking I was gonna have to go to the dealer. I looked it up. All I had to do was disconnect the negative on the battery for a minute, hook it back up, and it reset it. I tried restarting the truck. I tried a couple different things. I tried holding the button. Every other button on the steering wheel was responding. It was just that one. But I guess it happened in some of the Bronco Raptors as well, and the fix to disconnect and reconnect the battery fixed it. No issues there. It's been working ever since. Okay, so that's the couple little things I had. I would say problems, but they're just minor little things. It does not deter me from this truck at all. I still absolutely love it. It's better than my other vehicles. I mean, the finish of a BMW is going to be awesome, but this thing is worlds above my Jeep Gladiator. That thing was loud and uncomfortable inside, but it was pretty capable off-road. Let's see. So a couple of things that could be better about this truck. Like I said, I love it, but little things they could tweak maybe for the 2025 or 2026. Add the ventilated and cooled seats. I had it in my 2020 Ford Explorer ST, so it'd be cool if they could put it in this. I don't know if maybe the Lariat has it, but the fact that we have the Raptor seats makes it so we don't have it in this, but it would be nice. You can just auto start or like remote start your car with either your fob or your app, or you can schedule a start time and it'll run for however long you have it set to run. So you can have the AC going 15 minutes before you get out to your truck and have everything cooled down anyway. But the ventilated and cooled seats are becoming more and more, I don't know if ubiquitous is the right term, but they're in a lot of vehicles now. So it would have been cool to have it in the Raptor trim of this. I know my buddy's 6.2 liter V8 Raptor back in like 16 or 18, I think it was actually earlier than that, he had the cooled and ventilated seats. So I'm not sure why we didn't get it in this. So underneath the truck, and I'm just going to grab the camera here and show you, when you get underneath the truck, there are skid plates in the front. So you've got this big aluminum bash plate here. And then, so you've got this skid plate here that protects the oil pan, but then behind it, there's no more protection. So there's your transmission pan right there. It is plastic. Your engine oil pan is also plastic with a plastic drain plug, which it's actually pretty easy. I already changed the oil in it and it was pretty darn easy to do. I was wrong. There is one more skid plate right here for the transfer case. And then you go back, you've got your fuel tank. It's just got a little plastic tub under it, not really any protection. And then the rear diff, I mean, it's a differential, it's pretty beefy, but it has no skid plate protection there either. I've looked it up. There are a couple other options out there for aftermarket skid plates. I will probably look into that once a couple more of them come to the US. But for now, I'm just taking it a little easy on the trails. This is not a rock crawler truck. It's capable of rock crawling, but for me, it's more fun on the dirt roads going pretty quick. So when you get inside the truck, there is no physical owner's manual. It is in the infotainment system. So you just open up your main, go to owner's manual, and then you can go through by category, which is, it's not the easiest thing to navigate. I like it when you can open to the index in the front and just find what you're looking for. Let's turn this off so there's no air blowing. But so you can search by categories, bookmarks. I have nothing bookmarked yet. Visual search, this is pretty difficult to get through because you just keep looking at pictures till you find what you want. And I haven't actually gone through them all to see how long it takes to get to what you're looking for. There's a couple of videos. The videos are of like the windshield wipers and then how to program your garage door opener. So these are your garage door opener, and then you've got exterior. It just talks about your windshield wipers. So not a whole lot of videos. And then the last thing you can do is just search. But if you search for something pretty basic like oil filter and say go, there is nothing in there for oil filter. So I typed in oil filter and it brings you up the fuel filter, the cabin air filter, what is it, how to replace it, and then the engine oil filter or the engine air filter. So to me, there is mention of where the oil filter is in the actual manual if you look up the PDF online. And then you can also go to the Ford, I guess the Ford partnered company that makes their owner's manual and buy your own for $50-something. I haven't done that yet. One other thing that I really like, and I'm going to turn this back on. So when you have it set to dual, you can change the left and the right. I'm a little bit OCD, so if I change the driver's seat and I don't have someone in the passenger seat, I want them to be the same. I don't know why. Maybe it's just more efficient. In my mind, it makes a difference. But what you can do is just turn off dual. So now it's set to that. So anything I do on the driver's side changes the passenger side as well. And if you have it set that way and someone gets in your car and they decide to get in and change it, it disables that and goes back to dual. So that's a cool feature. I always have it in this because I drive by myself most of the time. That's all I'm going to show you on this. Adaptive cruise control. This is the R button right here that wasn't working for me, but it's working now. It's been working ever since. Your adaptive cruise control is over here. That's very cool. You've got your lane assist, actually your lane assist is right here, and then this is your follow distance for the adaptive cruise control. But I did a whole other video on that, so I'm not going to talk about that again. This is a pretty good telescoping and adjustable steering wheel, so you can pull it in, put it close, whatever you want to do. Lots of different features there. And then the seats are also pretty comfortable. So this is the wavy seat I was telling you about in the beginning. I mean, the leather is, it doesn't feel like cheap leather. It feels like it's got some thickness to it, but the fact that it's already this loose, I haven't had too many passengers in here, and then my kids sit in the back and there's just all their crap is back there, but those seats aren't messed up either. So this is what I was complaining about. Not a big deal. It just doesn't look that great. However, the bolstering on the sides of this are pretty comfortable. It's not too aggressive. Like the Focus RS felt like it was squeezing your kidneys all the time. And then the BMW is very stiff. The one thing I will say about this is it's bolstered with just padding. There's no plastic in there. So like the whole thing, I guess there's something in there, but it's a lot more squishy than bolsters in like racing seats. But this is not a race car, so I don't think that's an issue. I really like it. I like the Alcantara or the fake Alcantara. It feels pretty real to me. But I like that little subtle thing on there on the two front seats, and then it's also on the back seats. And then you've got all your little Raptor branding, and then your floor mats have the Raptor stuff. You got your Ford Performance here. So overall, I mean, the interior of this truck is fantastic. You'll notice also the passenger side has a grab handle to get in. The driver's side does not have a grab handle. Granted, you can always just grab the steering wheel when you're getting into your truck, but it's nice to have that handle there. When you're the one driving, you got your hands on the wheel, so it's not like you need a grab handle, but the Bronco has a grab handle right here. I don't know about the full-size Raptor, and then I do know that the Australian version and the South African version, and I think the Asian as well, in Asia also has the grab handle on this side, or at least some of them have it. So I know it exists, and I'm guessing I can just buy that trim piece, take this off, and the bolts are probably, or the threaded holes are probably in there for the bolts. So I'm gonna look into doing that. I've heard that the Australian ones also have their third brake light in the tailgate instead of up above the rear window, but they don't have the sliding power window in the back. So there's a lot of differences. Another difference is when you lock your truck, this does not lock. So if I were to shut the truck off and lock it right now, all the doors in the tailgate would lock, but this still stays open. It is tamper resistant, but if you have the funnel that you can buy for like $2 or that you get for free when you buy the truck, you just put the funnel in there and then you have access to, you know, if you're going to be a terrible person, pour sugar in there, siphon the fuel. I mean, there's not much that's going to stop you from doing that anyway. It's a plastic gas tank. You could just punch a hole in it. But a lock on here would be nice. I had some other people say all a lock does is make it so they have to jam a screwdriver in there and ruin it. Yeah, you're right. They're going to get in if they want to. Just that little deterrent would be nice. Oh my gosh, it's a mess in here. So this is my everyday truck. I was going to clean it up, but then I realized if you're like me and you have kids, they're going to leave they're going to leave stuff back here, and it's going to make a mess. But one thing this truck does not have is any sort of AC vents coming out of the back. But it does have the heater vents from underneath the seat. Just trust me, they're there. If you want to send AC to the back, you can just go in here and say, send it to feet. And even the little picture displays that it's going, that there are vents in the back, but there's not. So set to max cold, and then forcing it to go to your feet in the back, it does put a little bit of cold air out the footwell or underneath the seat in the back, but it's not very much at all. It's just, it's like it's maybe like a split in one of the tubes, but it's not very, oh, you can have it coming out both. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, there are no vents in the back, but you can have it come out at the feet. That's all I wanted to show you. So let's talk back seat for a little bit. The back seat is one solid all the way across. It is not split like the Toyota or the Colorado. It's one big seat here. And that's a big deal if you have car seats in the back. If you have a car seat, you are not going to be able to get to one side or the other. And then the base is the same. When you pick the base up, the whole thing comes up as one. So that is, I mean, not a big deal, but it would be nice to be able to split 60-40 like the other ones. And then, like I mentioned, the stock subwoofer used to be right here. I took it out, and then this kicker 8-inch hideaway fits perfectly in there. All I had to do was take the wires that were going to the old sub, put it into the high level inputs on this, and then run a power and a ground wire. So I have a video on how I did that. It was somewhat painful for me because I was doing it for the first time and I hadn't done it in this vehicle. So getting through the firewall was difficult and I wasn't using the right tools, but I could probably get it done in maybe 30 minutes or an hour now. So it's not that bad. You do keep the existing amplifier in there because that amplifier is still powering all of the other speakers and it is providing the signal to the subwoofer. So the bed of the truck it's fantastic in the sense that it's more than 48 inches between the wheel wells, so you can slide a piece of plywood all the way in there on the bed the whole way, and it doesn't have to sit up on one of the wheel wells. I really like that, especially for drywall, because you cannot have drywall propped up. It'll break. Plywood you probably could, but it might warp a little bit. You've got tons of tie downs. So you've got a tie down right here at the back. You've got a tie down right there. You've also got a tie down at the front. You can also go down to these hooks right here. I've done that before when I had plywood. I went from this hook here up around the back of the plywood and then to that. The only thing this bed does not have that the Toyota Tacomas that I've had in the past did have was tie downs here at the base level of the bed. And those are really handy if you're just putting something down here that's not very tall, that you don't want sliding around, you can strap it down. With this, it has to be at least 6 inches tall to get any downward pressure on it. So that would have been cool. I don't think it's a big deal. There's a bunch of holes here that you could probably put something like that in. I'm not going to do it. I'll just use the hooks under the tailgate. And then I'm also going to build a little bed extender to put in here, so that'll hold stuff in place as well. The last two little knocks I have for this truck, and they could fix it with some software updates or a firmware update, would be the lane assist is pretty great in the sense that it keeps you in your lane, but it hugs the right-hand side and gets a lot closer to the vehicles that are over there than I'm comfortable with. I think I don't know for sure. I mean, it has sensors. It has sensors right here, so it sees what's over there, but it'll get right up on that lane line, not cross over it, and stay right there, no matter how close the car in that lane is to the lane line as well. So as a driver looking there, you're like, that's way too close. It's not a self-driving car, it's just an assist feature, so it's not supposed to do everything for you, but it would be nice if it could keep you dead center in your lane. Or, I mean, if you have to err to one side, the driver's side would be better because you're right there to have a better idea of how close you really are as opposed to the passenger side. Not a deal breaker. I mean, I keep my hands on the wheel anyway because you're supposed to. And then the adaptive cruise control in this, I absolutely love it. I drive in traffic to and from DC every day, and it is phenomenal. I've had one instance where I was coming to a red light. I was going 45 miles an hour in a 45. There was a red light. The car was already stopped up there. When I got to about 100 yards, it started applying brakes, and I was like, oh, it's going to do this. This is great. It got closer and closer, and when I was about 50 yards away, it dropped the brake and hit the gas. And I don't know what the system saw or what it was doing, but I immediately slammed on the brakes, but it was like it was going to speed up and just run right into that car in front of me. But we're getting closer, nothing's happening, nothing. Oh, there we go. Brakes are on. I'm not doing that. That's all the car. So that should tell, oh, holy moly. Okay, so it was just going to run right into that guy. I was on a straight road. I wasn't making a turn, so it's not like it changed position or thought it was another lane or something. And I know the adaptive cruise control doesn't see a red light and come to a stop for you. That's all on you. The adaptive cruise control is made for traffic. If it sees distance getting smaller, it'll slow down. If it sees the distance getting bigger, it'll speed you up to the limit that you have it set to. But that was a little bit scary. I don't think that's what the adaptive cruise is made for, a stopped car in front of you. But what I will say is when you're using the adaptive cruise control, you always got to be ready. If someone cuts you off, it's going to slam on the brakes a lot harder than you probably would, unless they're like right in front of you. But it could be you're following a car at a safe distance, a car pulls in closer to that car than to you, and your truck is going to slam on the brakes. It's going to brake a lot harder than you would. You might accept a little bit more knowing that that car is going to get up to speed and then slowly back off. So for the truck itself, I don't think it's an issue. It's for that guy that's following behind you. If you slam on your brakes because a car pulled in front of you, you know, a solid 4 car lengths in front, the guy behind you is probably not going to expect you to slam on your brakes. So he may or she may get a little closer or have to really slam on their brakes. The other thing is, if the car that is in front of you is really aggressive and they're weaving in and out, if you're following behind them and they're speeding up to a car in front and then they immediately pull over and that car is going really slow, your truck or your whatever vehicle you have is going to have a hard time with that. So enough with the little things that I would change about it. Overall, it's great, and I want to start going through the things I absolutely love about this truck. So first of all, just the way it looks. I mean, if you guys are watching this, you like these trucks, so you know how they look. It's just everything about it. I put the little amber marker lights in the front. Some people say, you know, that's for the big trucks. You don't need it. No, I don't need it, but they look cool, and I wanted it, so I put them on there. The things I've done to it, I upgraded the subwoofer, which I already showed you. I put these little amber lights. I have intentions of putting some off-road lights. I'm gonna get a rack the full length of the top. I'm also gonna get a bed rack with a rooftop tent and a shower. I plan on doing overlanding. I had that on my Jeep Gladiator and I used it all the time in Hawaii. So I wanna be able to do that with this as well. And then that's it. The subwoofer is a huge difference in quality. The rest of the speakers in this truck are fantastic, and I have a whole nother video on that, so feel free to watch the stereo video if you want. But I will tell you, if you don't listen to heavy bass music, the stock is fine. If you listen to anything with a little bit of bass, even rock with some bass, the upgraded subwoofer, it's only like 160 bucks and then about 2 hours of time to install it. And to me, it was a world difference. It changes the entire sound of the sound system because you don't have to have everything else turned up too loud or adjust the bass up really high, and then when you try to get a bunch of bass out of your doors, you get some weird rattles and some weird resonance it's not made for that. So overall, I love it with this new subwoofer. You have 6x9s in the front, you have 6.5 coaxials in the back doors, and then you have 3 tweeters up on the top, 1 in each A-pillar and 1 dead center in the middle of your dashboard. So it's very well rounded, and the subwoofer just adds that little oomph to it. As far as the powertrain on this, I mean, the 3-liter twin turbo, and it uses Garrett turbos. It's not like a Ford Motor Company turbo or a third party with no labeling on it. They're actual Garrett turbos, which is pretty awesome because they're well branded, they're repairable. If these turbos go, I'm gonna get bigger turbos and I'll probably tune it. But until then, I'm really happy with it the way it is. And it makes that cool whooshing noise, so I'll add that in right now. And then the exhaust sounds amazing as well. I'll add that in. The transmission is super smooth when you're in normal mode. When you get into sport mode, it's more aggressive, but it doesn't shift hard. It doesn't feel like it's jerking or doing anything bad. And then when you're in sport mode and you've been driving somewhat aggressively and you start to brake, it revs it up to like 50, or not 50, to like 3,500, 4,000 RPM on the downshifts to keep you up in there if you wanted to go into a turn and then come out high up in the RPMs. It sounds cool, it revs it up, kind of like if you're downshifting in a manual or if you're using the paddle shifter to downshift, but it's just programmed to do that. I love that. I'll put a clip in of that as well. I already talked a little bit about the transfer case and the differentials, how easy they are to manipulate from inside the car. Just come to a stop, put it in neutral. It's amazing, and it just pushes the buttons and everything. So I really like that. It's very user-friendly, very obvious, very easy to do. So the suspension, I'm going to bring the camera over here again. The suspension on this truck is, I mean, it's awesome. The bottom control arm up here is big old beefy. I know one's aluminum and one is steel. I think the bottom one is the aluminum one, and that is just a big old chunk of metal. And then the top one is steel, or maybe it's the other way around. But the top one is, I mean, not quite as beefy, but still good. And then you've got these BF Goodwrench KO3 tires. It has a little KO3, every other knobby. Cool little feature. I think it looks great. These tires perform extremely well, and it says Baja Champion right there. So that's kind of cool. 17-inch wheels. These are the Beadlock capable wheels. So I have never had Beadlock wheels. I understand the concept behind them. I understand how they work. I thought when it said Beadlock capable, it meant I could take this ring off, pop the bead out, and then put this on there so it's locked in there. Turns out this is just like a trim ring on here. If you want to actually turn this into a Beadlock wheel, you got to buy the ring set from Ford or some aftermarket company. They're $800 to $1,000 for the set of 4. You take this one off, and then there are bolt holes all the way around it. So this has 2 here. There would be 2 more here, 2 more there. So it's bolts all the way around. And then you just pop it out, put that new ring on it, and you've got the bead locked on the outside. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't do the rock crawling. Really, that's for like if you're going to air down to 5 or 6 PSI and just slowly crawl over rocks, and you might actually lose the bead on your tire. I don't ever intend to do that. If I air down, I get down to like 14 or 16 at the lowest, probably more 18 to 20 range, but that's just me. The rear axle is freaking monstrous for a mid-sized truck. I mean, it is substantial. It's super beefy all the way across. And then you got that Watts link. Everybody's probably watching the videos on that. And your spare tire is a full-size KO3 as well. The wheel is just a Steely wheel, but the fact that you have a full-size back here is awesome. I love the fact that it's not an off-brand as well. It's the same BF Goodwrench KO3. My intention is to, when I rotate, I'm going to actually take it in and have them put that tire on one of these rims so that I can keep it in the rotation. It's not just going to sit under the truck and rot. And then when I get new tires, you know, I have one that's 6 years old and I might have to replace that anyway. I bought this truck from a dealer that had it come in. It was not one that I had ordered. I didn't order one at all, but it has this graphics package. I would not have picked it, but it's starting to grow on me. I thought when I first got it, it's a little too much, but it kind of I don't want to say it blends in, but it's not red or orange or anything. It's just, it's huge, but it's subtle colors. And then, you know, the Raptor on the back, the R's, they kind of come down. They're kind of aggressive look. I think the badging on this thing is pretty good. And I think it's good with or without the graphics. Like I said, if I had ordered it, I would have not gotten the big graphics package, but the fact that I have it, it's growing on me. I really am starting to like it. And then you've got that little tiny one up in the front over the driver's side headlight as well. The headlights are performance LEDs, and they're active headlights. So they actually move as you're driving. They go up and down, left and right. The auto high beams turn on and off as it senses cars coming, or if a reflector reflects back, it'll turn the high beams off for that as well. But they really do move around, so I'll add a quick clip in there of that as well. Next clip, you can actually see the intercooler air vanes opening and closing while the active headlights go through their startup testing when they move up, down, left, and right through their range of motion. It really shows you how much they're actually moving while you drive. The feel of the steering is really good. You can set it to comfort steering, normal steering, or sport steering. It just stiffens it up a little bit, but you have mechanical linkage in your steering. It's not a steer-by-wire. I know they've been doing that in airplanes for a long time and it's safe. Teslas do that. I like the idea of an actual mechanical linkage from your steering wheel to your tie rods and actually being able to turn it with, you know, more force. If an EMP goes off and you're going down a hill, your car might shut off, but you'll still be able to steer it and, you know, not drive off the side of a hill or whatever. So that to me is just a cool little feature. I always want to have mechanical linkage in my steering. So back to the interior. When you're sitting in the driver's seat, the armrest there is nice and padded. It's comfortable. It doesn't like hurt your elbow. And then you also have a nice padded area here. So when you're sitting there, you're kind of like sitting in a throne with armrests on both sides. I showed you the telescoping steering wheel, which is great. The bolstering is comfortable. The heated seat, it heats the bottom area and it heats all the way up to your shoulders. I've always had it where it's like this section down, but this heats all the way up to here. So that's really nice. Heated steering wheel is a nice little bonus. Right now it's warm, it's almost summer. It's getting to be summertime here in DC, and so it's getting humid and hot. But in the winter, it's really nice to have the heated steering wheel as well. The seats are very comfortable. I could sit in the front seats. I could go on a very, very long car ride and not have an issue. I plan on driving from Virginia to Colorado in July for a race I'm doing in Leadville. And then from there, I'm gonna go out to Utah and do the Ranger Raptor Assault School. So I'm excited about that. The back seat, I spent an hour and a half sitting back there working on my computer when my kids were riding their horses, and it was not bad at all. I had the front seat set for myself. I got up there and set it, and then I sat in the back seat, and no issue at all. And there's obviously, well, not obviously, and I did a review on the back seat, so if you want to go back and watch that video if you're really interested. And also I put 3 car seats across back there. I'll just add that little clip in here so you can see they fit with some space, and it's good to go. So there's still a little bit of gap, so you could, even with the doors closed, you could move them just enough to get all the seat belts, and there's a little bit of a gap on that one too. So 3 car seats across in the back seat of a Ford Ranger Raptor. The last thing, the lighting on the outside of this is adjustable from the screen on the inside. You can tell it what lights to turn on, what lights not to turn on. So really, you can have this thing light up a whole circle around it when it's dark outside. If it was in a parking lot, and you start the truck, or you get close to it, or you unlock it, it lights up a pretty decent area around it. And I'll show you a quick clip of that as well. Here's a walk around of the exterior lighting on the Ford Ranger Raptor. You've got a light under the side view mirror. You've got a light over the bed. You've got a light up by the handle of the tailgate. And same on the driver's side, you have a light underneath the side view mirror. And then your interior lights, you've got your 2 map lights, dome light. You've got a light in the door trim, just a nice little subtle glow. Same between the 2 glove compartments. Same down here in the little cubby in the center console area. And then on the driver's side door. Conclusion time, this truck is amazing. I love it. I've had 0 buyer's remorse. I've had it for a month and a half. Every other vehicle I've had, within the first month or month and a half, I'm already looking at what other vehicles have. Oh man, what does my Gladiator not have? Why doesn't it have very much power? It's got 460 foot-pounds of torque, but it goes like 0 to 60 in 9 seconds or 10 seconds. It's ridiculous. Maybe it's faster than that, but it just felt like a dog. The M3, just little things like, oh, it's making this noise, and oh, the crank hub is an issue and it's gonna shear off, or just all these little things that I worried about in my other cars. This thing, it's under warranty, so if it did have a crank hub that sheared off or something crazy happened to it, I'm just going to take it back. So any new car has that, but my M3s were used. My Gladiator was just, there was no fixing how sluggish that diesel was. So anyway, I don't regret it at all. I did pay $2,000 over MSRP for it. I was totally fine with that because I really wanted it, and I got one of the first ones on the East Coast. So for me, it was just the truck I've been looking at overseas for 4 years. I've been watching the Australians with, having so much fun with these trucks. I don't really want a full size. It's just too big to drive in and out of DC. I know people do it. It's too big for me to drive into DC. And the full-size Raptors are 20 or 30 grand more than this. So to me, this was the perfect truck. And when it came here and one came in local, I just had to have it.
It's over!